Hi, DF Crew, long-term listener, first-time subscriber. Thanks for that. Really appreciate that. With the Xbox Series X supply dwindling to nothing in Scandinavia, I've been considering getting one before it disappears from shelves. It would, however, primarily be used for back-compat Xbox 360 and Xbox One games, which made me wonder if a used Xbox One X would be a better option due to its smaller footprint and more console-like appearance in 2025 as compared to the Series X behemoth. So what are your thoughts? Is the improvement to load times from the SSD, FPS boost and future-proofing of the Series X worth it? Spoilers, yes. Or is the One X the hero I deserve rather than the hero I need? Cheers! Exclamation point. Oliver, this one's pretty clear-cut, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I would go with the Series X personally, because there are a lot of games with BC enhancements, with 60 FPS support, with the mooted FPS boost that was so key early on in the Series S's life cycle. Games like Final Fantasy 13-2, Gears of War 3, the Dragon Age games, Fallout, the Sonic games. We've covered this a lot. John covered that quite a lot, actually. They're all better on Series X than the Xbox One X, and in many cases, those are games that have the Haichi method of resolution upscaling as well, so they might be rendering at 4K or another similarly high resolution with that kind of 3x3 upscale there as well. It's also just a nicer machine to use day to day. It will have a longer life. The OS isn't so pokey. Whenever I use one of the Jaguar hard drive consoles, I always feel like I'm being transported back in time just because of how pokey and slow they tend to be in general operation. There's a lot of appeal in current-gen systems, even just in the way they generally tend to operate and tend to be used. And of course, there's also the future-proofing argument where you are going to see Xbox Series X releases for the next few years. At least it's going to continue for a fair bit of time to come. Whereas with the One X, I mean, there is still a trickle of new releases, but it's a fairly small trickle, fairly minimal trickle, and also you would not want to play games on the One X in the year of our Lord 2025 anyways. Games are not being released in very cromulent form, as it were, on the caliber machine.
Yeah, sure. I think the other thing, of course, is the One X release is it was like the effort level sort of diminished pretty quickly. You got a port, but in many cases the port wasn't really worthy of the One X silicon. It just seemed like dare I say it, a bit of an afterthought. I think another thing to bear in mind is quick resume, which you can get on a One X. Quick resume's just great, really is cool, and it works on older games. I mean, it's fantastic. Also, obviously it's going to be more expensive than the One X, but it's literally newer hardware, less prone to failure. I think that's another thing to bear in mind there. What do you think, Tom? I mean, I think it's a pretty one-sided argument, but any additional points?
It's very clear-cut. I mean, credit to Microsoft for building some really powerful consoles over the years. Series X and One X were top of their game for their respective generations as base consoles. Kind of at the end of their life cycle, One X was obviously top of the game there. But it's I think, going back to what Oliver said, like I've picked up the One X a couple of times because I've got one here which is set to a Region A for Blu-rays, and so I genuinely have a use case for it because it's my Region A Blu-ray player for American imports, where it's region locked and it's already preset, so I pick it up, and the amount of faff I have to go through to...
The system update is... what's the best way to describe it?
Glacial.
Let's be kind, extended.
Yeah. I can't believe we put up with the generation of that. And the menus, obviously, they're pokey is a good way to use it. Creaky is another good word. It just, everything feels just so slow. And I remember moving to Series X when it first came out and being just blown away just by the snappiness of the menus. It really made such a difference to the overall. It sounds so trivial, but it makes such a difference to the user experience of it. Games wise, FPS boost is obviously great, and that speaks for itself. We've got a lot of videos on that, and it's I think the Bethesda games stand out in my mind as being really big beneficiaries of that. Fallout and Skyrim and the rest of them. So no question, Series X.
Absolutely. I just think the work Microsoft has done generally in terms of backwards compatibility and, bringing those games kicking and screaming to modern consoles and often enhancing them, they've gone above and beyond, really. And if that results in an extra Series X sale, then, great, because it really is pretty fantastic stuff there. Yeah, I mean, I'm just curious to see how that's going to continue going forward, but I suspect they kind of reached the end of the line. I think one more thing to bear in mind with the Series X versus the One X, Grand Theft Auto 4 runs with an unlocked frame rate, and on Xbox 360 that is. The One X version kind of like ping-pongs between being GPU limited and CPU limited, whereas the Series X is just not limited in either case. You're getting a 60 FPS experience there on GTA 4, which is pretty unique for a console. So I think that one's definitely well worth having. But again, what I would say is definitely Series X and not Series S for a couple of reasons. First of all, no physical media support, and secondly, on the Xbox One X games, you don't have access to them on Series S. You basically have to use the Xbox One S code path. So it's definitely the X that you want. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's definitely a good reason to get one.